Today, we're working on what?
My lizard's terrarium!
Alright, we're making a terrarium. Well, not just today. This is just the first of several days worth of work. We're going to do a little each night after work. So today, the plan is to cut the box, the plywood to make the box out of it. How old is your lizard?
About 6 months.
6 months old, and it's a Leopard Gecko.
Yes.
We have it in a 10-gallon tank right now.
15-gallon.
15-gallon terrarium. It's pretty small. When we got the lizard, it was an okay size. But obviously now the lizard's getting bigger.
Yes.
Getting a little bored.
Getting close to 9 inches.
Yeah, tough to turn around in there. We also want something cooler, right?
Yes.
We don't want just a glass box with a few pet store things in it.
Yes.
We're going to make some Rockwork. Try that with some grout and some styrofoam, which we've seen other people do. Eventually we might add some brains and Arduino to this to help control the temperature and the lights. And also a little display that'll tell us the humidity inside the enclosure. We're going to end up with an enclosure, roughly about 32 inches wide, 15, 16 inches deep. Plenty of room, probably about a 40-gallon tank in terms of square inches of what we're dealing with. We've got a nice little CAD rendering we've got done, exploded diagram, and our cut sheet for today. We're going to go with 1/2-inch birch. We got some 3/4 plywood for the bottom. And we're staining this. I'm not a big fan of stain. To me, you buy the wood that you want to be the right color and the right look, but we're staining this because we're using relatively cheap plywood, and I think it's a walnut or a red oak.
Yeah.
You picked it out. Should look pretty nice when we're done. So we're going to get to cutting and hopefully assemble at least the bottom of the box, because this guy is raring to go on the styrofoam. He wants to make lots of snow so that he can build his Rockwork. Hopefully tomorrow while I'm at work. Alright, well, we've moved into the shop to make some of our length cuts. We ripped down most of our panels to the right width. We've got a few that we're going to have to take back out to the hot garage, but we're going to go ahead and cut these. Everything we've got so far. Got to go back in, rip some of the smaller pieces down, but I think we're looking pretty good so far. So this piece needs a notch cut in it. So we're gonna take it most of the way on the table saw and then finish it off with a saber saw. So I'm debating because these fit in between the stringers that go between the two sides. Normally I would build the cabinet and then triple check my measurement and cut it, but I'm kind of going off my trust in AutoCAD that these are the right dimensions, and I think I can remake them if I need to. Alright, if all goes according to plan, we've got 15 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's trash. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. 14 that needs to be cut, and 15. Hey, our count is correct. So the best laid plans, right? I realized as I was cutting the plywood, I was getting a lot of splintering, which it's a pretty good blade. I just built the kitchen, burned through a lot of melamine, and you know, I had another blade that I had totally intended on installing in the saw to use for this plywood. So we're gonna hit the surfaces really quick with some sandpaper. I'm gonna hit it with disc on 150 grit just on the surface. He's gonna use some 220 just to clean up the edges and the burrs. And then I think we're gonna glue. I don't think we're gonna screw since it's 1/2 inch plywood. That's always, I'm used to 3/4 inch material. I do have a couple nailers. We'll probably end up using just some, I don't know. I want to use the 22 gauge nailer, the pinhead nailer, because it'll look nicer when we're done. But I don't know if it'll have, we'll decide when we get there. So you can enjoy this quick montage of dueling sanders. Alright, our compressor's moved over. I think this will be a big enough workspace. If I might digress for a moment. I just recently did a major addition to my house and remodeled. Added this shop in here, and I didn't think of the miles of cable, Cat 6, coax, Romex that I pulled. I did not think until after I was done to run an air line between the garage and here, so that if I ever wanted to get like a stand-up compressor, I could just plumb it right to the wall. Now I'm lugging my pancake compressor back and forth, which is fine for now, but it's one of those that would have helped with noise, and I don't know. So we have a dilemma on how to attach the panels together. Normally with 3/4 construction, I would shoot it with a 14 gauge or 16 gauge nailer, and then run an 1.5 or 2.5 inch screw or 2 inch Trex screw in there, or spec screw in there. Because this is thinner, I'm only going to use the screws, and I'm going to use shorter ones to connect to the 3/4 inch base. And I think I'm going to stick with this 22 gauge nailer, or 23 gauge, whatever this thing is, because I won't see that as much, and I risk not blowing out the plywood. Now this will wander, and I'll probably have to cut a few little nibs that stick out. I think this is just too heavy duty for this build. And we're going to use lots of glue, copious amounts of glue, and we're going to let the glue do its thing. I debated whether or not we should like rabbet one side and all that, but this thing doesn't move very often, and in general the base is going to be fully supported. So I'm comfortable with glue and nails. We got lots of surface area. It's reasonably decent plywood. I mean, it's not great, but it's not a lot of voids. It's just thick plies. So I think we're going to start from the base over here. Now we sand it, so all of the numbers that go with our cut sheet are gone. So we've kind of got to feel our way for this one. This is our front, this is our back. So,
Should we do the back first?
well, so the top, we got some extra cutouts and layouts to do. So normally I do the top, but we're going to jump straight to the back, and then we'll frame out the front. And that's enough for you to get going
Yeah.
on laying out the rockwork. The other thing we need to figure out is, so we bought some track for the glass, just some plastic vinyl, some material. There's a little bit of tolerance there so you can slide the glass in and get it into the track. So we need to make sure we dial that in so that the glass, we're not going to build the glass in, and we obviously want to be able to get the glass in. And I hate cutting glass. It's awful. Glass is not a building material. So I think
It's breaking material.
this should be our back. This is our front.
Part of what?
2/3 of the box.
The glue.
Need to get the glue, need to get the glue. So I guess we can talk layout a little here. So we'll have a level right here that sits up on here on I believe I have it going into the side here. Screening that will probably fold up a pretty good size. The glass will be in front to slide, and then this area will be hatched. The light and the heat bulbs will sit over here, and then if we end up doing, well, the light's going to be tape light, so we're just actually putting 2 ceramic heating bulbs that hopefully eventually be hooked to a thermostat, so that if we need extra heating, probably not likely in Florida, but it is a bigger box than we've had before, but it is now wood, so it should be a little more insulated from our air conditioning. But we'll have
Which can be good and bad.
a penthouse up here that has the lights, the back end of the light fixture, and then
So
the controls for everything else, the timers. Like I said, obviously we would hope to put an Arduino in here with some relays that can control everything. And then a little raceway, we'll build a box up here so that all the cables and wires for the thermostats and the LEDs and things have a place to go. And we'll put a little flip on there so that if we ever have to wire something else, we can. The trouble when you work with one piece of 3/4 inch plywood, sometimes they make mistakes. So I cut one of these 1/4 inch short. So I need to figure out whether I'm going to recut that or, I mean, you can't see it. It's just, it's going to go up here, and now it's going to sit below the top piece by 1/4 inch. Probably not the end of the world.
Yeah, for the shoot film. I mean,
So that piece goes there, and this piece goes behind it, and then this is the track we bought. I didn't even measure how wide it is, but I hope it's about less than an inch, but more than a ½ inch. So I'm glad that will go just like that, and we'll hopefully have enough extra to put on the sides too. We got crickets that we have to keep from getting out. So this fits a 1/4 inch piece of glass, which is pretty expensive. So we bought some cheap glass at Home Depot. It's just under an 1/8 of an inch. And then we've got some 1/8 inch acrylic.
and we're gonna stick that in the track too.
So I'm hoping we can take the acrylic and hot glue it or epoxy it into the track to take up that, so that we have a nice tight fit. Otherwise we're gonna have to gasket the split in the glass to keep the crickets out, and I don't want to do that. Alright, so we had a battery die, but that's okay. We got this clamped up and put in. We're going to go ahead and put the top in, and we're going to cut it later. So went ahead and made a witness board that matches this side. Get some of these clamps out of here. And we're going to glue the top and shoot it in as well. Put those clamps away, please. Now we really have a box. We're going to go ahead and put out that piece. So this goes here. This is the one that's the wrong size. So they were supposed to made up like this, and then meet up at the bottom. But it's a 1/4 inch high if we do that. So we will probably recut that at some point. But right now we want to glue that in. There's a little bit of a tolerance there, so you can slide the glass in and get it into the track. So we need to make sure we dial that in so that the glass, we're not going to build the glass in, and we obviously want to be able to get the glass in and shoot it in. Might have to plane a little bit off of there to get the glass to fit. By just a little, but we can make that work.
Yes, we can.
We have a belt sander for a reason. Alright, I think that pretty much takes care of it. We got some glue to clean up, and then
We've got to finish making the box up here.
so yeah, there's still glue. Still looks. So this piece creates our channel there, and I believe this piece put a hinge on. Oh, we're going to need to put a cap on there, which we didn't cut. And then this piece goes Where's the piece go? This piece goes right in here. And this piece goes right in there to divide the computer from the heat. And then I believe I have this gap in here too to provide. I'll put probably my main power coming in next to it. So that's
Where's the roof?
what it'll look like. And then,
Oh, here's the roof.
so here's, and then there's this piece, which will act as the lid. Alright, so I said when we started the build that I didn't have this dimension worked out. That I was going to take off anything extra I needed here to account for the traps. Because right now this is 12 inches, it's tight to the glass that we bought. In our zeal to make the box, we went ahead and attached this piece, and then I realized, well, it's not the right height. And this is not a fun cut. Luckily I have an idea. The top piece that makes up the double thickness for this we had already cut. And because the bottom was 3/4 and I cut it the same as the thickness here, and the top was only 1/2 inch, it was off by 1/4 inch. So I went ahead and I threw that up there just to get a rough fit for it, but when I measured, we need 3/8 of an inch clearance to get the glass up and in. So I'm guessing we have about 1/4 inch extra in the lip, and then 1/8 inch is being taken up by the thickness of the material. So I went ahead and ripped this 1/8 of an inch off of this, dry fitted, and it works really well. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to attach it to the back, and then using a nice flush cutting bit, we're just going to take the router and run it across the front here. That should give us nice flush surface, should give us the right distance. Hopefully all goes according to plan. Alright, so while this clamps up, I'm going to lay out the top because we got to cut up a couple holes in it. The first thing I'm going to lay out is the light fixture in there, and then the second thing is there's a big square here with a screen door that will flip open. It'll be the first time I've ever made screen doors. It doesn't look too difficult. Here's the light fixture we currently have, and it's going to live right in there. But to make sure that I've got the in the right location, I'm going to make sure I got everything here. And then it has a little lip on it, and so I'm hoping to cut it short so that that lip will press up against the bottom, have a nice clean look to it underneath. But then also, I'll just take a metal strap to hold it in place from underneath. I think that'll work. So let's give that a whirl. Of course, it would have been nice to be able to do this in the drill press, but we'll make it work. that should work beautifully. Alright, that works pretty well. We've got a 12 by 8 hole that we'll build a screen for. The rest of the plans we gotta... Actually, I was thinking our next step was to epoxy this, but what we're really going to do is finish assembly, and then we're going to have to stain it. So we'll brush sand some of the rough stuff. We'll use some wax coated paper or cheesecloth to pull the dust off, and then we'll hit it with a stain, and then tomorrow to clear coat. I guess these really don't go on for quite a while, so that's fine. So we'll finish this up and get it cleaned up. Alright, I'm going to gripe about this for a second. I love this nailer, it's a great nailer. What annoys me is it doesn't fire when it's short on nails, not out of nails. I mean, I don't mind that it has an interlock, but I found it leaves so little and these are so thin that when you go to slide the next, I guess it would be a clip of these, it slides underneath or it bends or it breaks. It doesn't work, they're just too thin. So I end up throwing away about 10, and who knows what, it's probably a group of 100, so I lose 10% of my pins, because it's not worth the effort to try and make it work. I think everything that can be put on is put on. We'll vacuum, sand, and like I said, then we'll stain, and we'll stain the two lids that we're going to have. Alright, so quite a bit of work's happened. We've got the stain, it dried. We put 2 coats of just a polyurethane, water-based on it. It's pretty smooth now. Caulked all the inside joints just to keep any moisture from getting down in there. We've mixed our grout. We're gonna go ahead and put down a base coat. We're gonna a scratch coat, try and start to build some contours into the base. And then after that, while that sets up, we'll install the tracks and probably some hinges and other hardware. And then we'll come back later and do the top coat of grout. We're pretty far into our styrofoam construction for the rocks. It's coming along. We'll end up coating those too as well, just not today. Probably should have gone a little thicker on the grout, but the goal was to get some contours and then just a little bit of some ridges to bite the next coat. So when we skim coat it with the next layer of grout, hopefully it'll bite in just fine. There's always concern with grout that it tends to shrink a lot because it doesn't have a lot of aggregates in it. It's high cement ratio to sand, and that's really it. So it does shrink a lot as it's curing. So we'll see what kind of cracks develop, but again, hopefully our skim coat will be able to help cover that up. Alright, so we got these little hinges and some very small screws. We're going to go ahead and try and make the string work. And the drill bit's actually so small that it doesn't even fit in the chuck. So I wrapped a little bit of paper towel around it. It's not perfectly centered, but I think it'll be fine. So I want these to go like so. That will work now. The nice thing is I've got, loosen this up just a hair. Hopefully that'll, there we go. Drop it back down. I did buy, these are shelf brackets that I think, I might put a gasket underneath it, but I think that makes a pretty good handle. I don't know. What do you think? Underneath? Or do you want it above? Or ooh, do you want it on the side? You know, right there.
It would actually be on this side because I'm using my left hand to pick it up and my right hand to dump it and click it.
Do you want it up higher or do you want it down below it?
We feel.
Alright, I think we decided we're going to go ahead and open it this way, which means it's the same as that one. But I do think I'm going to put 3 hinges on it. Yeah. Okay, let's put the handles on. It's time to feed crickets. Pop that bad boy open. We shouldn't have to access this very often once we build in all the wiring and everything. I was afraid of that. I knew that was tight. Didn't think we'd have to worry about that. Oh well. Alright, so tolerances. I threw the glass to try and throw it in here, and I'm like a 1/16 of an inch. This is why you watch though, right? The screw up. So I'm going to go ahead and use the oscillating tool to try and nib off just enough to get it in. Then I've got to figure out whether or not I'm going to do the same on the back or if I'm going to put in both sheets of glass from the front. So I need to cut it to about there. I don't need to take it off all the way across. Just to that line. I just realized that's not going to help me. I got to take off the bottom. That was a waste, wasn't it? But I can't make it go any taller. Alright, I guess that's what we do. This material, yeah, looks like it does. It fits in there. So if we cut thin strips of this and glue it right to the edge, it'll be a nice stop for this. And I can glue one back there. I think that will help with the glass rattling. Okay, so we've got the Rockwork sealed, and now we have this little heating pad that we want to encase in a fake rock that we can pull off. So I've gone ahead and just put some cellophane down to break the bond with the grout, so we can hopefully pry this apart and then attach the heating pad to it. All right, we're done. You want to walk us through this?
So, what we have, let me put this to the side for now, is we have this up here, we have our electronics, heating elements, all that. Here we have the wires getting run. Here is the screen, which is really nice and easy to put crickets in. Inside we have a humidity gauge up here, a thermometer, and then we have a thermometer probe up here with the display on that temp over here. We have the sliding glass doors, which are very nice. Now, right here, this little plate comes off to reveal the heating pad, which is under there to heat this up. This is a whole climbing structure.
As you can see, we've completed our terrarium build. We feel that it came out pretty well, and Cusco, our leopard gecko, seems to enjoy her new environment. Some things that we learned while doing this project. First, the wood sides of the terrarium definitely hold more heat than a glass terrarium. And we've actually had to run the heating elements with the lid open for right now so that it doesn't build up too much heat inside of the terrarium. We hope to compensate for this by adding a thermostat that's controlled by an Arduino, and we've already started that build, and we hope to someday release the second video or second part of this terrarium build. The light fixtures seem to work really well and don't seem to bother the gecko at all. The gecko has definitely found some places that it likes to hide and can get out of the reach of just about anybody. The grout rockwork has held up really well. It's been easy to clean, and the gecko seems to enjoy walking around and climbing around the terrarium. It does give lots of places for the food to hide, which is difficult, but it makes it a little more fun to watch the gecko hunt. Here you can see Cusco enjoying one of the great leopard gecko treats, the waxworm. They truly enjoy these things. You can only feed waxworms once or twice a month to a leopard gecko, otherwise they get kind of addicted and they start to turn up their noses at their regular food. We thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this build video. I'm Gates, and I'm here with the junior Rankled Engineer, my son. We've enjoyed this build. We hope that it'll last for many years and that our leopard gecko will be able to have plenty of room to grow